So, this week I've been mostly playing F.E.A.R. And F.E.A.R stands for First Encounter Assault Recon, because they apparently were shit at making names for stuff. Like, come on. Why would you just call it something else? You don't need a stupid acronym. Just call it F.E.A.R. You don't need... for fuck's sake. Like, seconds in we're ranting. Anyway. So, F.E.A.R came out in 2005, and it's a first-person shooter horror hybrid. Like, there's a lot of gunplay and battles in it, more than your average horror game, which tends to really dampen down on those sort of elements that stop you feeling too overpowered and reminding you you're weak and feeble, etc., etc. It helps with the whole horror aesthetic. But F.E.A.R is not really like that. F.E.A.R is very much a tactical shooter, especially in the higher difficulties. You can't really run and gun too much in it. They do have a slow-mo mode, which you can see the influences of the game quite clearly from lots of cinema. It's quite John Woo-esque, quite a lot of the Matrix in it. Anyway, I've played for it a few times now, and I don't have any idea what the plot is. Spoilers, by the way, spoilers before we get too far into the plot, if you do intend to play F.E.A.R from 2005. So the general plot is you are hunting down the leader of a clone army who are psychically controlled by a guy called Paxton Fettel. I don't know why, but it's just is. And as you go through the game, you find it's not quite as simple as that. It's as simple as psychic clone commandos can be. Fucking hell. What is this fucking game? Anyway. There's lots of weird synthesis going on. There is the girl out of the ring occasionally turning up to creep you out, etc., etc. But that's not the interesting bit at all. Where F.E.A.R shines is mostly as a first-person shooter, and a lot of that comes from the clones. They're not your typical enemies. They are seemingly very intelligent. When you encounter them, they won't necessarily interact in the way you would expect. They will quite often hold back, or they'll rush a point, or they'll take cover, they'll run from cover, they'll dive over objects and stuff, they'll throw grenades. And that helps give this feeling that they're a bit more alive. But what really does it is the way they use their voices. You'll always hear a crackly static of them giving orders and commands to each other. And quite often they're not really doing that. But being able to call out the player's location behind an object, behind a wall, or check over there, or calling out how many people have been killed, stuff like that helps a lot to involve you, the player, in the current situation. Just feeling part of the battle because they're acknowledging what you're doing helps immensely. And they also have a sense of self-preservation. They're not mindless clones. They are, when they're giving each other orders, they'll occasionally tell the other one to fuck off, because they're not going to go and attack because you've just shot 6 of their mates. And that adds as well. You're not fighting bots. Almost you're not fighting clones. And I feel that helps immensely to really drag you into the gunfights. Also the great environment design. Everywhere's just full of items, full of clutter, paper and bottles and vending machines, flickering lights. And all these can be interacted with in a gunfight. As bits are pinging everywhere, you'll have the plaster on the walls being shot off and leaving clouds of dust that you can't see through. The lights will get banged about, grenades will take things all over the place. Walls will get sprayed with blood, you can really tell that there's been a battle. And simple things such as the sounds of shell casings hitting the floor really adds to the whole experience. It's just a great feeling of in this really chaotic moment. You're not just shooting a guy, you're having to think where to go, what to do, where he's looking and what's going on. The guns sound all really good as well. There's a couple of nice sci-fi ones thrown in there, such as the stake gun that can stake enemies to walls and also has no recoil. I do keep pinning people to the wall though, and then assuming they're still alive and then shooting them again just because you do. My favourite one is the plasma rifle thing that has just an aggressively bright light to it and then just vaporizes the guys into just a skeleton, whereas giblets and everything go everywhere. It's engaging, it's interesting, and real use of physics. The game is from 2005, so it doesn't look amazing really. It has a reasonably dated quality to it, very grey, very drab, but these physics effects help to really make it relevant still. It really felt great to play and good to look at. Unlike many games now, 30 first person shooters just feel just by the numbers really. Like F.E.A.R was incredible because look at all this stuff that can go on, or where are we going to go from here, and we sort of forgot to innovate on it. But then on the flip side you have the horror element as well. On paper these relatively easy to kill enemies aren't a problem, they're not a real threat, they're certainly not spooky at all. But after a gunfight, your adrenaline is pumping, you've had to look out for enemies around corners, keep your ear open to what's going on, really kind of split-second decision-making in gunfights, and then it just stops. It's just gone. Just you and the map, bit of a musical score here and there, and it doesn't need to do much, as you're then looking around, trying to find where you need to go, looking for various items to pick up. The slightest movement can give you a double take, long shadows, and play on your mind as you're trying to focus after this big epic scene. And it's very good at not just doing jump scares. It'll let you worry yourself. You don't know what's happening. It's easier to respond to a gunfight. But when there's a figure in the distance, you don't know what that is, as your mind making it up. It's by no means a perfect game. The plot is, as I said, complete drivel. I don't have a clue what's going on. And the protagonist is silent, which seems really dated now. Definitely a sign of the times. I think it's more acceptable back then, but now I don't think it will work very well. When I decided to play this again, I was worried it was going to be particularly dated, not very fun. The controls would be awkward and weird, the graphics would be terrible, it would run very well. I'm very pleased I did play it. It feels more relevant now as a sign of how shooters should be and what they could be. It seems somewhat radical to mix both horror and shooters together, and I thoroughly enjoyed both parts of it. It does genuinely make me feel unsettled, and then I love having the gunfights again. They're very engaging, very interesting. The whole game, it doesn't really matter if its plot is poor, because that's not really what you're playing it for. The plot feels fine as you're in it and as you're going through. There's some weird otherworldly bits that I wasn't very keen on, and the sum up to the whole game is awful. But I don't think that's really what it's good for. It's good to show both how a gunfight can work in a environment, and also how you don't need jump scares or a big threat to keep the player unnerved. It's the actual fear of the unknown. I don't know what's coming around the corner. I don't know what's going to be there. Even another gunfight is unnerving because I have to fight for my life. But if it's something else, that's even worse. So I would thoroughly recommend it. It goes on sale reasonably cheap. Yeah, pick it up, give it a go. If you've not played it, I fully recommend it. Anyway, have a lovely day.